Welcome. Really excited to begin to explore a map for LLM tools for public discourse with you all. Just to give you an overview of what we'll be doing in the next 50 minutes or so, I'll be laying out some of the foundations of the map that we'll be building together in the event in a couple of weeks, talking about why we're building the maps and what are some of the basic components of the map. Then we'll head into breakout groups and just begin to build the map and test out the map together, come back, talk a little bit more about additional elements and features that we could build into the map, then go back into breakouts, play around with those, and finally come back for a wrap-up. So fasten your seatbelts. So why are we creating a map? First off, we really just want to be able to see what the landscape is of current work that people are doing on building LLMs for public discourse and for pluralism. But really what this is about is trying to collectively identify where there are opportunities for impact, where we can build new tools to support pluralism. And that's all towards an effort of inspiring and giving direction for what we can collectively do together, both that can be generated out of the event that will happen in a couple of weeks, but we'll also be publishing this map for a broader audience of technologists, researchers, and funders, hoping it'll provide inspiration for them to build new tools. What's going to go in the map? So broadly, we're looking at LLM tools that can support public discourse and pluralism in different digital spaces where people are engaging. And that can either be engaging directly with each other or as part of a deliberative process. So the LLM functions that we can look at is really, there's no limit. Our imaginations are the limit. So we could be using them to summarize, recommend, mediate. It can be used as part of pop-ups, chatbots, mod tools, apps, you name it. The two things we're keeping out of the scope are LLMs for classifiers and for content rankers, not because those are not extremely important apt uses of LLMs, but merely because there's already a lot of work and organized work in those areas. So we're kind of putting them to the side for the moment. In terms of the digital spaces that we'll be looking at the event and be going into our map, we're thinking of 4 primary ones. One, mass social media platforms, so the Facebooks and the TikToks, as well as moderated subgroups within those platforms or other online communities that have volunteer mods. We could be looking at LLMs using comment sections for online publications, or already have a couple of those going on, as well as LLMs integrated into platforms that are explicitly about deliberation. But do not let us limit your imaginations. If you think of LLM functions or if there are platforms either that exist, you're imagining that could integrate these platforms, you name it, let's bring it to the table. We want this map to be as expansive and exclusive as possible. Now, in terms of what's the shapes of the map and the features that would go into the map, that's really going to be the subject and what we're going to be digging in today. So let's start to dig. For the event, we are planning on using 2 dimensions that we have identified that we can think that'll be kind of encompassing, but also simple and clear enough for us to be able to do this collective mapping together. So a primary dimension that we have is a temporal one. So you can think of when people are engaging on platforms, there can be different kinds of actions they can be taking, posting, responding, and an LLM could engage during that process. So for example, Lisa Argyle's empathetic response recommender could assist folks on how to more empathetically respond to a comment. Or you could imagine AI tools engaging before action. So while users are being onboarded or entering a thread or seeing a post. So for example, Convo Wizard is a tool for subreddits that will alert users when a thread is already tense. And at the end of the temporal spectrum, we could imagine tools that happen after action has happened. So, for example, when hate speech has been posted, there is an AI tool that could assist counter speakers in identifying where that hate speech is happening and how best to respond to that hate speech. So it's a fairly straightforward temporal dimension. The other dimension that we're looking at is even less of an access, but it's really more a way for us to be able to place these different types of tools and see where they would be occurring across different spaces. So, for example, the 4 spaces I mentioned before. So the Convo Wizard, for example, has been designed for Reddit subreddits. The counter speech tool will probably be operating on mass social media platforms, but maybe not. But you could imagine the empathetic response assistant, it could operate across both in subgroups as well as mass social media platforms. The squiggly lines will hopefully indicate to you that there are no strong distinctions here, and that's part of what we're going to be doing in our first breakout. You will see in this slide deck, and I see there are 30 people in there, and let me drop it into the chat again. Actually, David, could you drop it into the chat again? So everybody can jump in if possible. I will be putting everybody into, I think we're going to do 7 breakout groups. So you will be in breakout group 1 through 7. You will go to find your 2 slides. And what you'll be doing in groups for approximately 15 minutes is using these stickies and moving, and there's one here about a mediation bot, and putting it on the map wherever you think it should go. You can add different kinds of LLM tools that you imagine or that you know about, and then collectively just discuss and talk about how this, where you put these on the map. And while you're doing this, you'll probably come up with questions or areas of ambiguity or thoughts about how the map should be changed. Please add all of those thoughts into your second slide. And folks on our team will be volunteering to take notes, but if you're in a breakout group and nobody's indicated that they're taking notes, it'd be great for someone to take that on. I hope that's all clear. If there is any, I'm going to check the chat. Okay, great. All right, thank you, Sam. Thank you, David. All right, so I am now going to put us into 7 groups. And I will call you all back in about 15 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for your comments. And I can see that people were struggling in precisely the ways that we wanted you to struggle now. So we can try to smooth over those issues before we gather in a couple of weeks. And now we are going to begin to talk about other dimensions of the map that we can include. And let me share my screen again. So for the purposes of the event, we'll probably be using these 2 dimensions. Again, hopefully smoothed out given your comments. But map doesn't just have to have 2 dimensions. We could imagine multiple ways that we could create additional maps with different dimensions. So for example, we might want to take the universe of LLMs that we've identified and put them on an axis of LLMs that have great potential for impact versus viability. And in doing so, try to identify tools that are both impactful and realistic, and that we can realistically build and deploy. So we could build additional maps with different dimensions, Or we could layer on different features or dimensions onto a map, right? So we don't have to restrict ourselves to just 2 dimensions. So for example, we could stick with our temporal and space dimensions, but we might want to kind of pinpoint or identify which of the LLMs on that map have greater potential impact, for example, by shading. But we can be really creative this way. So we've thought of a lot of dimensions that we could include. So for example, we might want to know which LLMs, who has ownership of them. So would they need to be deployed by platforms? Could they be used by third parties or users or mods? Folks might be interested in the theory of change behind the particular, which LLMs that are being used. Or even though the overarching goal of this event is really looking at pluralism and public discourse, folks might want to kind of pinpoint more explicit, specific goals within that larger framework. We might want to lay out LLMs by their function and see if there are interesting groupings there. I've already mentioned impact and viability as dimensions. And then in our discussion, some people have pointed out they really would for them it would be really important to know how much agency does an LLM afford a user, or how much does it usurp user agency? And relatedly, is there a human that is involved in the LLM, or are they operating independently or kind of assisting humans, or at least being responsive to humans? And finally, on our map, we might want to know which of these LLMs are actually in existence today being deployed, and what are just our ideas. So those are just 9 possible dimensions that we thought of. You might think of more, but for the next exercise, again, we'll be going back into groups. I'll put you in new groups so you can meet new people. But what we'll be doing here in the second group is talking about which of these additional dimensions or others that we might not have identified do we really want to highlight as we begin to build out our tool. And so you would just, drop them wherever you think they should be prioritized. And as you were doing with the other sides, be creative and muck about as much as you'd like. And also, as in the previous section, as your kind of thoughts bubble up, please drop them here. And again, we will have, we'll go into 7 groups. And just so find I think I numbered them, yes. Find the slides with your group number and have fun. So let me get y'all back into groups. Hi, welcome. I was enjoying seeing everybody's putting all your chevrons or whatever those were all over the place, and the notes. Thank you so much. I see that we have a lot to learn from this session. Thank you for your generosity and also your pushback. For next steps, before we see all of y'all, or most of y'all, I know a couple won't be able to join us in a couple of weeks. You will be hearing from us again. So we will be sending out very likely a survey for early next week, trying to distill some of these issues or questions that were brought up. And then while that's happening, people have been fantastic adding to the document and also to this to the spreadsheet. Please continue to add tools that you know about, that you run into, onto that spreadsheet. At the event, obviously, maybe not obviously, at the event, we're going to spend an hour with a larger mapping exercise. And so it's so great that most of the participants have been here today, so you guys will be up to speed. And this will be a way for us to just continue to add more onto the map. And then once the event is done, we will be a few of us on the team will be working to bring all the rich detail that you have added to actually create the map. And at that point, we will open the door for people who are interested in co-authoring and working with us to create those maps, which we'll be sharing with the broader world. And with that, thank you very much. I'll hand it back to Rose for any final thoughts, comments before we let you all manage your life for your next Zoom call.
Thank you so much, Julia. This was awesome. I had a lot of fun in my groups. I wish that we had time to kind of popcorn style hear some ideas. I promise we're going to have a lot of time for that at the convening at the end of the month. So very excited to have you all. If you have more thoughts about how we can make this map more useful, please send those to us. Did we have a survey for that, Julia, or should people just send them in over email?
Feel free to send them over email, but we will be sending out a survey early next week, and that will be that'll be an opportunity to refine some of these questions, and then also give us general feedback.
Awesome. And then I'll just say that the event is totally sold out, and we're very full. So if for some reason you can't make it, we hope you can make it. But if you can't, please let us know so we can let folks in from our wait list. Yeah, I mean, we're ending on time. I love that. I guess we can take, does anybody have any quick popcorn comments? Might as well.
This was really fun. Looking forward to the in-person session. So thank you.
Thanks, Victoria.
How will the map be updated in perpetuity, Beth? Thank you. Okay, we'll be part of the team post hoc to figure that out. This was such a delight, and I'm so excited to see everybody in person in a couple of weeks, those who can make it. And thank you for, again, your generosity for jumping in, for playing with us, and look forward to more expeditions.
Amazing.
Time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.